So we want to welcome you tonight to the Highland City Council swearing in. Someone asked me actually earlier tonight, why do we do a swearing in? And I think this is so that we have those that were elected feel they're officially now able to go about and accomplish the city's business. So tonight we will be seeing the city's business going about with that. But I want to welcome everyone here tonight. It's an occasion that's unusual that we have in the city. It happens about every 2 years as we go through. Tonight will be one that will affect our city's life for the next future. That this will be the time that those who come into the city council will be affecting decisions and directions for the city. So a little bit about the city council. The city council is a 6-member body. The mayor is a member of the city council but does not vote. And we have 5 council members that do vote. And then a tie, the mayor will then go forth and he will then break that tie. But we are a 6-member council. The members tonight will be serving for the next 4 years. So that will be the term they're being sworn in for. And we rotate. There'll be 3 council members that will be sworn in tonight. Then in 2 years, we'll have another election, and we'll have a mayor and 2 other council members. Then at that time in 2 years, that will go forth and be sworn in. And so it's kind of an alternating. So we have a little bit of experience that is there. Of the 3 members that are being sworn in tonight, they are dedicated. As you probably noticed, we have 2 council members that have been on for 4 years that are going forth and have been re-elected for another 4 years. And I thank them for deciding to go forth. We have Doug Courtney, who has also served our community, if it be there with the Highland Fling, there with different committees with the library. And once I mentioned also with being the parade chair. I appreciate that. And Doug has also been very dedicated, come to many of our city council meetings. So we have 3 good council members that are being sworn in tonight that are very dedicated. Some of the responsibilities that they are going to be taking on tonight, the council members are agreeing that they will serve on committees that will benefit the community. Now, they'll be serving with a lot of other city council members from other cities, and they'll be advocating for Highland City for what might be best, not only for the city, but also for our area here. They'll be responsible to make sure that our citizens are being provided with fire and police, water, sewer, garbage, roads, and parks, as well as the other things that benefit the community. The vision that they will see tonight is what we will see in the city for the next 4 years. So when I say it's an important night tonight, these 3 council members will be giving their vision and listening to the members of the residents of the city and what they see should go forth. One of the big things is a goal that we've talked about as a council is to do a general plan. That is our vision of the city. They will be working with the residents. They will be compromising. They'll be advocating. And they'll also be sharing of decisions and advocating their direction that they'd like to see the city go. They will get emails. Some of them will be thanking them for their service. Many will be sharing their opinion about topics. They might even get a unique email that might come from Satan, which we recently got, and we were all wondering, what is the return address of the one from Satan? But you're going to get unique emails as a council member. But most of the time, I think you're going to find out that it's a very rewarding time. So tonight, they will be sworn in, as I say, so they can be sworn at. Now, truthfully, that doesn't usually happen, but there are times that people get very animated coming up. But we want to turn some time now over to Judge Schaefer to come up. She'll give us a little bit of Schaefer Bullock and give her a little bit of time to share a little bit about what the charge is, and then she'll be doing the swearing in. So we'll go ahead and judge.
Erin knows me well. She actually said, "Are you okay with a stationary mic, or do you need one that you can, a handheld one?" And I said, "Oh, I think handheld." And she said, "Yes, I've seen you. You're very animated. I don't think a stationary one would work." Has anybody here heard me speak before? I mean, absent a couple of people. I really hope that I don't repeat anything. They're, the favorite stories that you tell. As one of my favorite things in the world is to administer the oath. As many of you know, as a judge, you actually see quite a few really sad circumstances or people who have gotten themselves into a really terrible situation. But this is usually a very, very happy occasion. And one of the things that I'd love to talk about is, why is this so important? Why is this so unique? And to do that, we have to go back in time a little bit. And a very, very interesting story is there was a general during the Revolutionary War. And this man was a patriot. He was funding expeditions out of his own pocket. He actually bankrupted himself in support of the revolution. He was injured in battle to the point where a doctor had said, "We need to take your leg." And he said, "You take my leg and you die." And so the doctor found a way to save the leg. And he actually led colonial forces into Canada, unfortunately, in the winter. And it was a failed expedition. The men who were with him by the end were trying to eat their own shoe leather. They didn't have enough supplies. They didn't have enough food. And they were going to try to convince the Canadians to join the revolution. Didn't work. Were not able to be successful there. But so staunch in his patriotism was he that men marched into the mountains in Canada in winter and followed him, even though they starved, even though they froze, and even though it failed. And even though it was a failed expedition, when he returned home, he was hailed as our American Hannibal, right? Crossing the Alps during the winter. Does anybody know who that patriot was? Anybody want to take a guess? It's a tough one. That patriot was Benedict Arnold. This is the man who became so disillusioned by the imperfection of the men in the Continental Congress and so upset at a chastisement they ordered Washington to give him that he thought, this is a lost cause. No way can they be successful with men like these. And he is our most famous turncoat. And actually, what is so sad about this and shows his character, unfortunately, is, do you know where he was when he betrayed our nation? He was at West Point. He's the first commander at West Point. Washington and Lafayette, they meet with the French ambassadors. Very critical meeting. We were not going to be able to win the war without the French support. And then they go to West Point to see Benedict Arnold. And as they ride up to the front, Benedict Arnold is running out the back because his whole plan with John Andre, many of you may or may not know that, but he had used a British soldier and they were going to capture Washington, Hamilton, Lafayette, all the aide de camps. The war was going to be over as he handed over our most important, our general, Washington, and all of his most important generals as well. The French support would fade because Washington had been captured. And Washington walks in and no Benedict Arnold, very unusual that he wasn't there to meet him. He had actually offered rum to two soldiers to say, "I will give you rum if you take me to that ship." Well, it was a British ship, but the men didn't want to question Arnold, so they wrote him out. Again, showing his true character. He immediately places them under arrest for the British Crown, takes them on board. The admiral of the ship was actually quite disgusted with Arnold and let the men go. But Lafayette goes upstairs, he's unpacking, and suddenly Hamilton is in the doorway saying, "Washington needs you." Lafayette runs down the stairs. Washington is standing at Benedict Arnold's desk. All of the evidence of his betrayal has been left out. He had no reason to hide it. He thought that they were going to be taken into custody by the British. And Washington's hand was trembling as he lifted the papers and he looked at Lafayette and he said, "Arnold has betrayed us. In whom can we trust now?" And it was then that I realized your level of infamy is determined by the height from which you fall. There is a really great contrast between Washington and Benedict Arnold. Washington was a man who people understood his character. It's why he was given the stewardship of the troops, and it's also why in the Constitutional Convention, when all the men in that room wanted to set term limits for a president, they couldn't even broach the subject, because at the head of that room was the president of the Constitutional Convention, George Washington, and no one wanted to insult that man with the idea that they couldn't trust him and that term limits needed to be imposed, which is why no term limits through FDR, because they understood his character. Now, this was a man who saw and was very frustrated with the Continental Congress. This was a man who saw the foibles of mankind, but this was a man who knew the purpose, and he was never going to abandon it. The ideals for which they were fighting were never to be abandoned. And then you have Benedict Arnold, who I firmly believe history would have rehabilitated him from his chastisement and from the allegations that were made against him, but his pride was too big, and he lost sight of the cause. And now, well, who likes a traitor? Not even the people who you go and betray your people to. The English hated him, and so did the colonials. One interesting aside, it also shows kind of a brilliant stroke of genius by George Washington. John Andre, who had conspired with Benedict Arnold, was actually quite a gentleman. Everyone acknowledged he had quite a bit of integrity. And when he was captured, saving our entire revolution because Benedict Arnold was not able to move forward with his betrayal, the English wanted him back so badly. And the colonials didn't want to have to kill him. And when the English reached out and said, General Washington, can we do a prisoner exchange? George Washington said, of course. We don't want to kill John Andre. Give us Benedict Arnold. Well, the English can't do that. They'll never get another turncoat. And the English had killed Nathan Hale. So John Andre was hanged. The English never forgave Benedict for that. So it was just a very, very sad situation because he was the pinnacle of a patriot. And George Washington, who are we going to trust now? And for those of you who are about to take an oath, once the Constitution was ratified, George Washington said, the Constitution is the standard which I shall never abandon. And everybody knew that that was true. This was a man of his word. This was a man who had turned down a crown. This was a man who repeatedly was entrusted with all power and handed it back. One of my favorite quotes in the world is King George III. Anybody remember my favorite quote, what King George III said about George Washington? So after the Revolution, except for Cincinnatus, what every general has ever done when they are successful, they seize power. And everyone knows Washington's going to be given a crown, right? But Washington's turned it down. And when King George III heard that George Washington was going to turn down a crown and return to private life, he actually didn't believe it. And his next comment is somewhat facetious, but it actually was true. He said, if he does that, he will be the greatest man in the world. And so I often say on that, King George III and I agree. Because even Cincinnatus, there was precedent for him to not seize the dictatorship. But that's why George Washington became our American Cincinnatus. My hometown, Cincinnati, is actually named for the Society of the Cincinnatus, which was the nod to the father of our country. So, as those of you who are about to take an oath tonight come forward, one of the things that I love so much about this is that behind you are generations and generations and generations. Mine goes back to the 7th generation fighting in the Revolutionary War, of individuals who were ready to rise and fight so that they didn't have to live on their knees. And we recently, this past year, saw the coronation of a new king. And we saw how that worked, actually in the UK at the time. Very fascinating to me, actually. Particularly, I was in Scotland. There's a little bit of a complex situation in Scotland as they crown a new king. I wasn't able to see the Stone of Destiny at Edinburgh Castle because they had taken it for that coronation. But still, his likeness is everywhere. There were a lot of people ready to stand and, well, actually to kneel and give an oath of allegiance. And it struck me how intensely lucky we are. These oaths are voluntary. They aren't made at the point of a sword or a gun. And you don't take them on your knees. You rise of your own free will. And on your feet, as free men and women, you do not take an oath to a king, a queen, a dictator, a tyrant. You take an oath that you will uphold, protect, and defend the ideals and the form of government that are contained within the Constitution of the United States. Not a fallible man, but those principles that are set forth and contained therein. This is unlike what the majority of the human race has ever experienced, to stand forth as free men and women and voluntarily take this oath. And there's been a lot of blood that has been shed and continues to be shed so that we can continue to stand on our feet as free men and women. And we, the people, need our public servants. And it's interesting because just like me in the courtroom, when you sit, the way it works is you look like you're above the people. But you aren't. I was once asked about the ascension to the bench, and I said, it's a descension, right? I'm the public servant. Benjamin Franklin was very clear at the Constitutional Convention when they said, well, what is the president going to do? How is he supposed to leave and stop being president and just go back to being an ordinary citizen? And Benjamin Franklin said, remember, that is an elevation of status. He goes from being the servant to back to being the master. And you are put up so that the people can see what you do. And as you come and take this oath, remember those words. The Constitution is the standard, which I will never abandon. You have been elected by a free people to represent them, to represent their interests. I loved the mayor's opening remarks about what it is that you're going to be doing. And I will say this, I actually know people who know the mayor outside of the city. I would love to know that people spoke as highly of me as I hear people speak of you. And for me, that is the other part of this. There are going to be times, as he said, compromise is a part of this, right? A lot of times people talk about they don't like to see the sausage being made. Legislative sessions can be difficult. Nobody likes compromise anymore, but this is how we ended up with such a beautiful form of government, unlike any that had ever been formed in the entire history of the world as far as we know. How many other governments can you name where people are simultaneously under the independent jurisdiction of multiple governments? We have a federal government, a state government, a county government, a city government, and because we want the people to be able to feel that they have that control in their local communities and then in their state, and so on. But this had never been tried before. Our federal system is a uniquely American system. And it was compromise that led to that. Thank goodness we have all of the different opinions that can help us to see the best path forward. There's one last story I love to tell. Herodotus is the one who recorded this, and it was about the Spartans. It was the Greek Olympics, and Herodotus records that there was an old man who actually entered to see the games. And as he walked past the different Greek city-states, this old man was made fun of by the people. They teased him, they mocked him, and he had to keep going. And when he reached the Spartans, all of the young men and some of the older rose to give the old man their seat. And the old man, with a tear in his eye, turned, and all of the other Greek city-states started cheering for the Spartans. And he said, "See, all Greeks know what is right, but only the Spartans do it." And what a thing it would be if you and the Highland City Council, as your people look at what other cities are doing, that they could say, well, all men know what is right, but Highland City does it. And I hope that you will make that a part of your goal as you serve the people. That as you rise as a free man to come and take this oath voluntarily, that you will know at what cost you rise. You will know how much sacrifice went in to you standing on your feet, and how fortunate and blessed you are amongst all of humanity that has ever lived to be able to have such a beautiful opportunity to do something that most never would have ever dreamed was a possibility. So I think we're starting with Brittany Vills. Is that correct? All right. If you'd like to come forward. Be here. Sorry, thank you. Okay, perfect. If you wouldn't mind raising your right hand, please. All right. I, Brittany P. Bills, do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Utah, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. Did you want to do it at Washington style? So help me God, or no? So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. Congratulations.
That's why I went first last time. I should have remembered that. No, just thank you all for being here and for supporting me, and for your vote if you voted for me, and if you didn't, then thank you for the support going forward. I'm looking forward to the next 4 years.
That's mine. Sorry. No, you're good. Okay. And let me make sure I get, oh, you do not have a middle initial. Okay. I, Doug Courtney, do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Utah, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. Do you want Washington style as well? So help me God.
Well, I wasn't planning to say anything either, so I don't really have anything prepped, but I want to thank everybody who helps build and preserve the city. And one thing that struck me earlier, we heard about all of the generations that have come before us and on whose shoulders we are standing. And I would like us all to remember also all of the generations that will come before us and are entrusting us to pass on what we have received, at least as well as we received it. and ideally much, much better. So, thank you all very much.
And I'm very sorry. I should have asked everybody about the form of the oath. For those of you who don't know, the original oath for the president did not contain the words "so help me God." Washington added them. So I refer to it as the Washington fashion of the oath. You do not have to have that. It is not contained in the oath, but if you would like me to add that, I can. Okay. All right. I, Kim Rodella, do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and the Constitution of the State of Utah,
and that I will discharge
and that I will discharge
the duties of my office
the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
So help me God.
So help me God. I think last time around that I did this, they told us that we were going to give remarks. And so I came prepared, and then we ended up not giving remarks. So they didn't tell us we were doing them, and joke's on us. So really excited about that. But I just want to tell my family and my friends, thank you so much for all your support, for all that you've done for me. And also, thank you so much for the past council, mayor, and the present council for all their support as well. And I'm really excited to serve another 4 years and excited to see what we're all going to do together. This is one of the greatest councils, greatest cities, and mayor as well. And I can say without a shadow of doubt, we're going to see some great things in 4 years, in these next 4 years as well. So thank you.
Well, thank you for everyone coming out. I think if you've never heard Judge Schaefer Bullock, I think you see the passion that she has for the Constitution. And I got to tell you, thank you. Every time I hear you, it's very inspiring because you're just love for the America and the Revolution. I know that when you talk about that, that's the Daughters of the American Revolution. I think that's kind of one of the things that she's strong is behind. We see some of that, so we appreciate having a good judge that also is strong with the Constitution. Tonight, I also want to thank the family. Not only did your parents or friends and family take an oath, but you kind of took it with them to say that you would support them. There's going to be times they're going to come home and they're going to tell you some crazy things that we talk about and wonder why we made decisions we did, and we're going to just ask for your support. But I just want to tell you thank you for being there to support them. It takes a good family to make things happen. And yes, Briggs, it even takes a good Briggs to come to all the different city events to be there. So I've always loved to see Kim's kids and Brittany. I love to see your family as you guys have had your families come out and look forward to getting to know Doug and some of the family and friends that you have. The question came up about the vote. Brittany, you brought up about the vote. I'm going to tell all three of you, I voted for you. This is who I voted for as the mayor. These are my council members that personally, as a resident, this is who I put on my ballot and voted for. I want you to know that I'm excited to work with you guys again. You know, Kim, you brought up about how past, we always can talk about the past. We have a great council going forward. I look forward to work with you. We know there's going to be some tough decisions. We know we're going to have to say, hey, I will appreciate, I don't necessarily agree, but we'll move forward. And that is what I thought made us as a good council, is we can respect one another, we can respect one another's opinion, and we can still move forward and say, we can be good friends. And I look forward to work with you. This is going to be a good council. We have busy work ahead of us. We know there's some big decisions. And we'll laugh together. There'll be many times we'll laugh about the situation we're in as we go forth. And we got Ron and Scott here. We got Scott Smith, which I've worked with now. It's going to come on 6 years, Scott. And I've really appreciated working with you. And Ron, it's now been, 3 months? 3 months. And so I appreciate, and as a council, we're going to go forth. When we say united, we're united in the purpose to make Highland a better city and to make the decisions that help us go forth. So I'm excited to work with the council. We've got a great council. We've got a great community that we serve. I talk about, I thought coming into city council as mayor, we'd probably have a little bit more negativity, meaning that you'd have, and I would be very, very open. I have not felt that. There's been times people have maybe questioned decisions, but I've not felt like it was really been me that they're attacking as much as the decision. And I've appreciated it. And I just want to tell the residents, thank you for being respectful of us as elected officials. We try to do the best we can. We know we're not always going to make the best decisions. It's when you get out of that council and you go, did I just make a decision that I would make different coming in? And we all question decisions, and it takes time going, okay, that was a good decision as we go through. But I look forward. Thank you once again. There's some cookies and water in the backs. We just wanted to thank everyone for coming out. I hope you all drive home safely. It looks like the storm might be coming in, so thank you for coming. I also want to recognize we have Erin Wells here, who's our city administrator. We can't do it without her. We have also Andy, who's back here, is our city engineer that is just vital for us. We have Jay, that's also our community development and assistant city administrator, and we have Donna, that's our librarian. So we appreciate their support tonight in being here. So, and Brooklyn, who's our new communications specialist, is going to make us all look good. So, so appreciate it. But thank you for coming out, and thank you for your support. Take care. Come sign your name now. And then there's cookies, guys.